Jesus is the ideal in loving God and our neighbor, and to be truly human is to be loving. Rabindranath Tagore, the great Bengali poet, in his Gitanjali tells the story of a beggar going from door to door asking for alms. He suddenly sees his king approaching in a chariot, and he dreams of the king showering upon him bountiful gifts. But to his surprise, the king asks him what he has to give. After staring for some time, confused and undecided, he finally peers into a sack of meager possessions, takes out a tiny grain of corn, and gives it to the king. Going back home, when he opened his bag, he was surprised. He said, "But how great my surprise when at the day's end I emptied my bag on the floor to find a little grain of gold among the poor heap. I bitterly wept and wished that I had the heart to give my all." The truth is that we human beings only are truly human beings when we give ourselves away in love. Love is central to human existence. In the Gospel according to St. Mark chapter 12 verse 38, one of the scribes came up and asked Jesus a question that the people ask rabbis often, which is the first of all commandments. It is a question that people ask all the time. What is essentially required in order to please God? It is an honest question. The first part of Jesus' answer is taken from the book of Deuteronomy, the final book of the Torah or the Pentateuch. The passage was part of Moses' poignant farewell address as he was about to die just before the Hebrews entered the promised land. He urged fidelity to God's law for two reasons. First of all, it will bring a reward, and secondly, it also is a thanksgiving for all the blessings they had received, including their current entry into the promised land. Jesus' answer contains the keynote of Deuteronomy, the great Jewish prayer called from its opening work, the Shema. This prayer begins the basic principle of the entire Mosaic law. The Lord alone is God. Jesus said that, and our basic human response to God also must be undivided. In the Gospel of St. Mark chapter 12 verse 30 we read, "You shall love the Lord your God with all your heart, with all your soul, and with all your mind, and with all your strength." Jesus says that the entire person is to love the God who loves every person entirely. One aspect of newness was that Jesus added another part. You shall love your neighbor as yourself. We can find this verse also in the book of Leviticus, chapter 19, verse 18. But what is new is that Jesus went further in understanding the intimate bond between love of neighbor and love of God. In Christian charity, people and God are not merely side by side, they are inseparably one. That idea was new. Another facet of newness was that Jesus gave a completely new interpretation of neighbor. In the time of Leviticus, it meant Hebrews only. By the time of Jesus, it included resident aliens as well. For Jesus, the word has the widest meaning possible. It includes every member of the human race. He died for all of us. In the first book of the Kings, chapter 17, verse 15, we also read, "The widow fed the prophet even before she fed herself and her son, and miraculously her food did not run out until the famine was over." That is the love of neighbor and the generous sharing that the Lord expects from us today. Jesus is the ideal in loving God and loving one's neighbor. The letter to the Hebrews chapter 7 presents Jesus as the perfect high priest, the model mediator between God and human beings. To Hebrews who belonged to a theocratic nation, high priest was a supreme head. And as we read in Hebrews chapter 7 verse 26, Jesus is precisely the high priest whom the human race needs. Jesus, the sinless Son of God, made his sacrifice for the sins of others, which was a supreme act of love of God and love of neighbor. This makes him the most perfect human being capable of loving. To love means to go beyond yourselves, to rise above our own needs and to reach out to someone. To love our neighbor would mean to see the faces of those who desperately need our love and to risk comfort to give our time and energy, indeed ourselves, for others. May we be able to sacrifice something of our own out of love for others. Let us ask the Lord to fill us with His love so that we become true Christians after the heart of Christ.